Hi, gang. It's Patrick.
And Adam.
Coming up on today's episode, we're invited into the room where it happened in our interview with Sidney James Harcourt, an original cast member of Hamilton. As always, we discuss the latest Disney news, and we close out the show with some quick D. All that and more on today's episode of Gays Do the D.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Adam Angelica Hummel.
Angelica. Patrick Peggy Kosicki. I had to do it.
I knew it. I knew you were going to make me the Peggy. And I'm fine with that because she has an amazing song later on in the show. I'm fine with it.
She does when she turns into a whore.
Yep, exactly. How are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am moving forward and hanging in there.
Okay. I want you to be more effervescent. I'm not going to force it upon you, but I do want you to feel as joyful as you make others.
Oh, wow. That was a really sweet thing of you to say. That is the first time I've ever heard you be nice to me.
I wasn't being genuine. I just wanted to appear genuine.
Fake it till you make it.
That's right.
No, I'm good. I'm having a delightful day, Adam. We are chock-a-block full of recordings today. I am here for it. I'm ready.
It's a GDTD kind of day.
It is indeed.
And if anyone was wondering, and how could you be at this point, we are still recording remotely. We are separated, Patrick, separated by miles and miles.
We're oceans away.
This is becoming so normal, though, is it not? Like I was thinking the other day, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to do when we're actually in the same room together again. Like, what's that experience going to be like?
A little behind the curtains for you Tweedledees at home. I left for a second before we started recording to get a cup of coffee, and I literally asked Adam if he wanted a cup of coffee. What is happening?
It's not a good situation, Patrick. This is normal now.
It absolutely is.
I'm still waiting on that cup of coffee, though.
It'll be there in 3 to 4 hours.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, hopefully someday soon we'll be back in each other's presence once again. Yeah, you're right. No big deal.
No, I think you're the last person I'm going to see in person. You're last on my list.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. I see you more often than I see my husband who lives with me, Adam.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they say the camera adds 10 pounds. So the next time you see me in person, I'm going to look so skinny.
To be clear, I have 10 cameras on me right now. That's why I look so enormous.
I was wondering why you're switching angles all the time. It's an incredible amount of work you put into these Zoom calls, Patrick.
There are not enough ring lights in the world. Well, I'll tell you what, Adam, if we did want to see each other in person, we could do it in Florida in Walt Disney World, because as of this recording, Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom are currently open, and Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios are scheduled to open on July 15th.
Wow, it is masterful how you are prancing around. The possibility that those parks may not open. I'm sure they're going to open, but Patrick, that was a work of art.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have perfected the art of not assuming anything is true these days.
Yes, Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios are scheduled to open this week.
How you feeling about that, Adam?
I have been trying, Patrick. Is there a way we can insert very melodramatic music under this moment? I have been trying, Patrick, to be the most upbeat and excited person I can for any kind of return to normalcy. But I am taking my stance today. I don't believe that Walt Disney World should be reopening. I feel terrible saying that, but that's the way I feel.
Girl, you said it. I am conflicted because on one hand, I fully believe in Disney and I trust them with my safety. But on the other hand, I fully do not trust Florida. So putting those hands together does not make sense to me. And I apologize to all of you who live in Florida. I believe in you. I am here for you. But please wear a mask and stay home.
It's not all Floridians, and it's
No.
not everyone across the country, right? There's just some COVIDiots who are choosing to, I don't know, ignore a pandemic and deciding that they want to live their lives as regularly scheduled, and that's just not the case right now. So we need everyone to slap on those masks. Please respect physical distancing, and we'll get through this more quickly if that's the case.
You can consider the word COVIDiots stolen officially.
I didn't even come up with that. I heard it weeks back, and I've been just looking for an excuse to use it, and today was the day, and this was the recording, Patrick.
I like it. I feel like we need to make a beautiful wear your mask commercial set to the song Masquerade from Phantom of the Opera.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
All right, Tweedledees, you have an assignment.
Can you just imagine the stoned masks, the beautiful glittering masks we could be wearing in that commercial?
And then cut to drag icon Valentina saying, "I'd like to keep it on, please."
Ahead of her time, Patrick.
Yes. She was sending us a message from the future.
Did she know she was going to be a spokeswoman from the future?
Amazing.
Well, hopefully, magically, and if there's one thing Walt Disney World can produce, it's magic. The tide will turn in Florida, and we'll see a great reduction in the number of cases, and things will get back to normal.
You better work that message of positivity, Adam.
Thank you so much. I will. In fact, speaking of positivity, it is Disneyland's 65th anniversary this week, originally opening on July 17th, 1955.
Beautiful.
I know we all wish we could be there celebrating, but it's just not the time right now. Fortunately, there's some incredibly beautiful merch they're producing in honor of the anniversary. Have you checked that out, Patrick?
I have checked it out, and I am saving my next paycheck to purchase all of it.
You want that Spirit jersey, don't you?
I want 7 of those Spirit jerseys.
It's your color, that beautiful blue.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You're such a spring.
Thank you, but my heart is winter.
Your heart is definitely like January 13th.
It's January Jones.
Well, happy anniversary, Disneyland. We can't wait until we can all be together and celebrate that incredible milestone.
Amen.
Moving on, Patrick, we received some Tweedledee feedback this week, but not about our last episode. It actually goes back to episode 94, where you and I had a discussion regarding queer content in Disney media. It was kind of like our Pride episode, right?
It was our Pride episode. I really enjoyed that conversation.
Jackie, who you can find on Instagram at JYIS42, wrote in, and she said, I wanted to reach out regarding the conversation you had on episode 94 regarding whether or not gay characters on film and TV should only be played by gay actors. While I understand your point regarding not wanting to box actors into a specific role, I do think it's important for members of any marginalized community to play roles representative of themselves. To have a gay actor be able to say, hey, this line doesn't sit right with me, and here's why, could be the difference between the character being the representation we long for and a caricature that sets our community back. The representation we currently see on stage and on screen is exceptionally heteronormative, as discussed in this episode pertaining to Disney specifically, but is also an issue at large, and many gay actors get passed over for roles because they're not straight. Personally, I feel as though for the sake of representation and allowing viewers to see more of themselves on screen, having a gay actor play a gay character can be so incredibly impactful, not just in the portrayal, but in the knowledge that the actor also feels safe enough to be out. The same conversation goes for trans actors. There are so few acting opportunities because of the disproportionately low number of trans roles to begin with, and yet it is an even rarer thing for a trans actor to get to play the part, to the point that doing so is seen as revolutionary. There is an abundance of gay actors vying for a role, and I truly believe that until we see the representation we want to see from our community on screen and on stage, casting directors should prioritize casting people of marginalized communities reflective of the roles. This goes for LGBTQ plus representation as well as race and ethnicity, not to, quote, box in actors, but to provide more depth to the representation we all long to see. Wow, Jackie, that is quite a statement, and thank you so much for sending that in to us.
Yes, absolutely. That is such a valid and great point. I am with you on that, specifically around casting trans actors to play trans roles. I think it's so important because it's such a delicate and specific character that playing a trans character when you're not trans almost seems inappropriate to me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It is a singular experience, and while we can certainly relate to feelings that character may be feeling, there are just too many elements involved in a trans character that we would not be able to account for if we weren't actually trans.
Exactly. And I want to really highlight the point of, at least if you're not a gay actor playing a gay character, there should be someone in the room making a call going, you know what, that is not authentic, that is inappropriate, here's my voice. I absolutely agree with you on that.
And I think, Patrick, if I can speak for both of us, we absolutely agree, Jackie, that if there is a gay character, a gay actor should be the first choice, right? Like, you should absolutely be shooting for a gay actor who would fully understand that experience. But sometimes that's just not possible, or there's not that level of talent there. I don't know what the excuse is why a straight actor would be cast, but gay actors should be brought to the forefront when it's a gay role.
Yeah, I think I would add an addendum to that just for me personally. I think it depends on the character itself. It depends on what you're trying to portray. If the character just happens to be gay, I don't have a problem with anybody playing that role. I think when it comes to somebody playing a very specific storyline that depends on the gay experience, then I think, yes, you should use a gay person because they have that experience, that knowledge.
That's a great point too, Patrick.
In general, I think we're all on the same page that representation matters.
Representation matters 100%. Jackie, thank you so much again for that statement. We really appreciate you adding your voice to this conversation.
Thank you, Jackie. Well, Adam, as it turns out, Disneyland isn't the only anniversary we are celebrating today. We have several movie anniversaries to talk about.
I love movies. I love anniversaries. What are we talking about?
Well, first up in the list, Adam, turning 1 year old on July 19th, released in 2019, we're celebrating The Lion King, the live-action version.
Okay.
Celebrating may be an overstatement, I guess, but we are acknowledging that the live-action version of The Lion King was released.
You know, this is one of those opportunities where I need to go back to Disney Plus now that it's available and give that movie another shot, another chance to fully entertain me.
So full of amazing, beautiful talent, and yet I just didn't need it in my life. You know what I mean?
It would have been better, quite frankly, had it actually been live action and like Beyonce and Donald Glover were just like human beings portraying the characters from The Lion King.
Yes, I kind of want to see just a table reading of that movie instead.
Bring it on. Bring it on, Disney Plus.
I am here for it. I'm here for it. Moving on, Adam, turning 5 years old, released on July 17th, 2015, Ant-Man.
Wow. Didn't we just talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp last week?
We sure did.
So they really stuck to that. They were like, this is Ant-Man's window of release. It's July.
Exactly. Kind of like Spider-Man was in June.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it funny, Patrick, how movie studios do that?
It's almost as though they plan it.
It's almost as though.
Next up, Adam, we have your favorite movie, turning 6 years old, released on July 18th, 2014, Planes, Fire and Rescue.
Okay. This was a movie, I guess, that came out in the theater. I honestly have no recollection. And if you told me that this had gone straight to video, I would have been like, absolutely it did.
It was a big hit for about 6 or 7 people.
Incredible voice talent in it, though, right? Like, wasn't there like Terry Hatcher? Wasn't she in it?
Who can say, Adam? Who can say?
Is she an incredible voice talent to begin with? I don't know. I'm trying to put a positive spin on Planes, Fire, and Rescue, and I'm sure there are fans out there who absolutely love it. I need to give it a shot. I guess I probably won't, but I do need to give it a shot.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, moving on to our last movie, which had some fire but needs no rescue, turning 27 years old, released on July 16th, 1993, Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus. And why wouldn't it be released in July? It's the perfect film for July.
Yes, Halloween in July.
Let's make that a thing.
I mean, I think we are experiencing the scariest time of our life right now in July, so it's already here. You know what I'm saying?
There is no way I can put a button on that because that was perfection.
Well, happy anniversaries, Hocus Pocus, Ant-Man, Planes, Fire, and Rescue, and The Lion King, the live-action version.
Before we move on, we'd just like to take this opportunity to remind you that we have some very valuable resources on our website. We have our coronavirus relief tab and our community recovery and resources tab, featuring links to anti-racism resources and recovery efforts for communities impacted by the riots across the country. So when you have a moment, please check out both of those tabs and do what you can to help make a difference.
Amen. Also, we should note that on that tab, we have a small list of Black-owned Disney shops that you should investigate and support.
And Patrick, also listed under that tab are a list of hashtags you can follow if you're on Instagram, which I have found so enjoyable, particularly in the reopening of Walt Disney World. There have been some really beautiful posts from people of color from all around the Disney community. So check out those hashtags as well.
Absolutely. And if you have any suggestions for us that we should add to this tab, please send them our way. Some of you already have, and they have been added.
They have indeed.
Well, Adam, before we move into the news, we should talk about some changes that are happening around here at Gays Do the D. We're mixing it up a little bit.
Changelets, baby changes.
There you go. There you go. So next week's episode, we are doing a Walt Quisney episode. However, we are doing only that, right? We're not having a regular-sized episode with the news and some banter. We are just doing the quiz, game show style, with one of you, our Tweedledees.
That's right. Patrick and I have been having conversations about how we can have you, our Tweedledees, on the podcast. So we're inviting you to join in on the fun as contestants in our Walt Quisney episodes going forward.
Exactly. So one of you, our Tweedledees, can compete against one of us, Adam or I, for a grand prize.
Grand? I don't know. That's overselling it.
For a prize.
It's all in good fun. There's no pressure. There's no press, people. We just want to have some fun, have a few laughs, share our knowledge, and also maybe learn a couple of things about Disney trivia along the way. Mostly,
it's an opportunity for the two of us to throw each other under the bus.
That is the first priority in producing those episodes, yes.
Exactly. So our first guest on next week's episode is going to be Denzel, the wonderful Tweedledee, who is responsible for naming our Tweedledees.
That's right. If you're a frequent listener to the podcast, I'm sure you've heard Denzel's name dropped on the podcast. You may have actually heard Denzel himself as he has sent in voice memos to the podcast. You can find Denzel on Instagram at @from_Washington. And we are so excited to have him as our very first Walt Quisney contestant.
It was so much fun. I had a blast. I got thrown under the bus many times, but I recovered. I fully recovered. I'm back, but a little bit bruised.
Your healing powers are phenomenal.
I'm basically Wolverine.
Okay.
I'm Wolver Queen.
Wolver Queen, Patrick.
So if you would like to be a contestant on Walt Quisney, send us a DM on Instagram at GDTD Podcast or send us an email at info@gaysdothed.com.
Entrants will be placed in a random drawing when we are planning our next quiz, which will usually take place about a week before we record. And we'll just keep on drawing until we select a contestant who is able to join us for that week's quiz. So if you're not able to join us, we'll throw you back into the bucket and you'll be added to the next round of drawings.
I'm super excited about this, Adam, mostly because I don't have to only talk to you on a weekly basis.
I can only imagine how refreshing it is for you to have someone who is not just constantly belittling and or judging you.
Yeah, it'll almost feel like I have a friend.
Almost.
Dream big, Patrick. Dream big.
Patrick, I love you. Look at me. Look at me in the Zoom camera right now. Patrick, I love you.
Oh, wow. I'm frightened and terrified. That was unsettling. Friendship is not for me, apparently.
Patrick, do you know what else I love?
What's that, Adam?
Disney news.
Adam, I have a gift for you. Guess what it is?
Diamonds?
Almost. It's the news. But if you... Nope, I don't have anything. Starting out the news today, we have some new updates to how Disney is handling park operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. As you may know, as of this recording, both the Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom in Disney World have reopened. Our friend and previous guest on the pod, Chris, from Wishful Thinking, was in the parks for the annual pass holder preview on July 9th, and we were able to chat with him about what he experienced. Adam, can you remind our Tweedledees how they can find Chris?
You can find Chris on the web at wishful-thinking.com and Instagram and Twitter at wishful_thinking with no I's. That's THNKNG. And just to remind you all, Chris is a full-time, fee-free authorized travel agent specializing in Disney destinations, including Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disneyland Paris, Tokyo Disney Resort, Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, and Aulani, a Disney resort and spa in Hawaii.
And now, without further ado, here is our check-in with Chris. Hello, Chris, and welcome back to the pod.
Thanks. I feel like I was just talking to you the other day. The last few weeks have been such a rush. How are you guys?
We're doing good. How are you?
I'm good, but I'm here in Orlando, so I'm kind of tracking all of these things unfolding kind of in real time, which has been exciting, but it's been a lot to keep up with.
Well, we're so excited to have you here. We now officially have on-the-spot newscasters working for Gays Do the D.
Can I be like Kermit the Frog, where he's doing like that, where it suddenly starts, the wind is blowing and everything's flying by me, and I'm like predating those Weather Channel forecasts? Can I be?
I love this idea. I'm here for it. I'm living for it.
That'd be me.
I'm just relieved that you didn't ask for compensation. Phew.
Well, as we've said, you are reporting from Orlando, Florida right now. You have been one of the first people back in the Disney parks. What was that like, being one of those first people to enter the gates again?
I felt incredibly lucky, but I was also really curious. As some of your listeners might remember, I did formerly work at Walt Disney World, so I feel like I have a little bit of kind of first-person perspective, but as a pass holder, they did permit a select number of guests to enter the Magic Kingdom and the other parks a few days early. So I attended the annual pass holder preview at Magic Kingdom 2 days ago. I was there before the park opened. I stayed until after the park closed. My feet are still a little tired, but it was a great day. I'm not going to lie. It was a fantastic day.
Let's go to that first moment. What was the experience going through the security checkpoints to actually get into the park?
Yeah, right from the very first impressions, it was very clear that Disney had really thought through what was going to be necessary, and they were prepared. To be honest, and I can say this categorically for the whole day, I felt safer within Walt Disney World than anywhere I felt in public for the last 4 months. And it was because they had thought through so many new procedures that they were going to need. So from the first moments, there's a security and a new health screening check. They do a temperature check, and they make sure that all guests are prepared with masks. Disney has specified on their website exactly what types of masks they're accepting. So you might want to have people check that out if they're thinking of visiting anytime soon. And then after you pass through that health screening, there's a whole new security system that's set up with social distancing measures in place. And those same social distancing enforcements happened all throughout the day. But right off the bat, everything is different.
Can you talk a little bit about the safety guidelines that are in place? And are they being respected and enforced inside the park? Did you notice any kind of suspicious activity, or did everything really seem on the up and up by Disney?
To be honest, I didn't see anything all day that made me concerned. And I've been paying a lot of attention to what is going to be necessary for this new normal. One of the easiest ways I could explain things is if you've been to Disney parks before, there's a phrase you hear all the time, which is, please step forward and move and fill in all available space. So anytime you would have previously heard that, there's a whole new system in place where on the floor, there are clearly marked socially distanced dots where you and those who are in your party stand. And so when you fill in an area, cast members direct you to select one of those spots. They're at least 6 feet apart from each other, often further. And then when those spaces are filled, beyond that, there is a queue. The queues now have very clear lines that say, please wait here. And those are distanced at least 6 feet, sometimes longer. But those new queue systems are in place everywhere from the boarding area to the monorail and the ferry boats, all the way through to every queue, every pre-show, literally everything all day. And at one point, I actually just kind of forgot where I was. I was so excited. I was on the ferry boat. Even on the ferry boat, there's those dots. And I went to go get a picture from one of the spots I like to take a picture. And within seconds, there was a cast member on me or near me saying, sir, we need you to stand in your spot, and directing me right back to where I had been. And just, there were voice announcements reminding people about those things. And then once you're in the park, there are regular voice announcements reminding people to wear their masks. I did see cast members, enforcing that. Although, to be honest, there was very little need for enforcement. Even kids were being really cooperative with all of those expectations. And then there were additional cast members just kind of around. The way that Disney knows how to motivate crowd control absolutely came into place here. So in the same way that those cast members know how to get you to not stand there when you want to watch the fireworks, those same people now know how to say, hi, I'm going to invite you to stand over here. Please, I'm going to have you stand over there. And the crowd knows how to respect it. Nobody wants to get kicked out of Disney World. So if anything, it made me wish that there were Disney cast members in every public place that I've been over the last few months. If we could just get Disney cast members at the local grocery store, I'd feel a lot better there.
I am all for hiring Disney to save the world.
Yeah, although I have to tell you, I did see some Disney cast members in their costumes at Target the other day, and I had to go up to them and be like, hey, do you guys work on Mine Train? They did.
Amazing. So beyond some of these sort of socially distanced cues, were there any standout changes that you immediately noticed that are differences from the way we did experience Disney to the way we are now experiencing Disney?
Yeah, the way we typically estimate loading times and wait times is now completely changed because they're also enforcing the new social distance in terms of how they load attractions. So if it's something like let's say Peter Pan's Flight, where every guest kind of has their own individual vehicle, those are the same. But for anything that involves rows of people, like say Pirates of the Caribbean or Splash Mountain, any of the roller coasters, they're spacing out guests between rows, sometimes several rows in between. And because I was there solo, I was the only person in my boat for Pirates of the Caribbean, which is great. But because of that, it is changing a little bit how quickly rides are able to go. That said, capacity right now is so low that even today, now that the parks are open to the whole general public, I just looked on. Anyone can do this. They can load the Disney World app and you can check wait times right wherever you are. Right now, Flight of Passage is a walk-on attraction. It's listed as a 5-minute wait. Same thing for almost everything in the Magic Kingdom. So because capacity is so low, typically, where we're accustomed to having to wait, there is a bit of a queue in terms of social distancing, but you're not in that queue very long, at least not now.
I heard on Flight of Passage, too, that they digitally added masks onto the Na'vi.
I haven't heard that, but I'll be happy to go and see for myself. I mean, that has turned into the new Photoshop thing, right? Of who we could put masks on. The only Disney cast members that I did see who were not wearing masks are some of the characters that are interacting with guests. So previously, obviously, if you've been to a character meet and greet, you wait in line, you go, you pose for a picture right with the character, you can sign autographs, give them a hug. That's all gone. So now instead of those character meet and greets, they've got these cavalcades, which are socially distanced kind of parade vehicles, some of which we've seen in other parades, some of which I've never seen before. In some cases, characters are literally riding on horses. Both Merida and Gaston were like horseback, which is really fun. They don't announce when those cavalcades are going to be to prevent crowds from forming, but the characters kind of show up where you don't expect them. The Country Bears were kind of up above Country Bear Jamboree. Cinderella's stepsisters were hanging out up in the balcony of the castle, interacting with guests and just being hilarious. So those folks are not wearing masks, but they are so socially distanced from you and from one another that it's not a concern.
Were you aware of a lot of cleaning going on? Were you seeing cast members wiping down surfaces between rides and at various locations throughout the park?
Yes, constantly. Lots of custodial staff doing a lot of extra cleaning on places that are normally touched. So like handles to a door, water fountain buttons, railings, surfaces where you might purchase something. A lot of more cleanliness measures than I'd seen in the past. And there's also plexiglass dividers that have been put up at cash registers and on a number of the queues, actually. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, even on the boats for the Jungle Cruise, there are new plexiglass dividers that separate parties. I did feel that cleanliness through. I mean, Disney's known for this, obviously, for being super clean. But beyond that, there's hand sanitizer, free hand sanitizer at the entrance and exit of every attraction, and additional kind of hand washing stations that are set up. They've also got voice announcements regularly reminding people to wash their hands thoroughly and regularly. So Disney's always been clean. It's super clean right now.
Well, this all actually sounds very reassuring. I'm so glad we got to talk to you. Tell us, what's your overall impression on how things seem to be running? And do you see it as being a safe and sustainable way forward for Disney World?
In terms of sustainability, I can't begin to predict. I think none of us really knows how this is going to play out over the next few months, nor can I even begin to calculate how Disney remains viable with, minimal number of guests and minimal number of hotel guests. But for those who do have reservations and who are planning on coming, I obviously you need to talk to your doctor and consider risks and consider many ways that we can minimize risks. But I not only felt safe there, I would also feel completely comfortable sending clients. I do have clients actually who are checking in next week, and I feel completely comfortable sending people here. To me, one of the biggest questions coming into this was just the feeling of how we would feel being in the park. We have so much nostalgia wrapped in around Disney, especially for those of us that have been feeling the kind of dank and gloom of this pandemic, feeling kind of cooped up for the last few months. I was curious whether Disney would feel like a diminished experience or whether it would feel rejuvenating and inspiring. And I actually found it was the latter. Believe it or not, it was, in all places, it was Mickey's PhilharMagic. I don't know if you've ever been on that attraction. It's the 3D animated feature that happens in Fantasyland. I started sobbing like a baby. It really struck me, in part because so many of those stories, I mean, some of those films are the Disney Renaissance. There's some of the films that I kind of was so attached to coming up. But beyond that, it really took me back to some memories from my own childhood. I don't want to get too deep on you, but I will say that there was trauma during parts of my childhood. And Disney for me was always a very safe, intimate place that I could go in my own imagination, where I could feel the power of dreams and what I wanted to be. And so coming out of this mood that we've all been in the last few months, just connecting to that deep childhood part of me that's like, we can dream for things to be better in the future, and we're in this together. It was actually surprisingly profound sitting there in that theater, thankfully behind the quote unquote opera glasses, so no one can see my tears. But the day was honestly genuinely magical. It was also kind of astonishing to be in a park with so few people, but the magic is still there, and the cast members so clearly care about providing a top-notch, meaningful experience for people. Many people can only do one Disney trip in their lives, and Disney knows that. They train their cast members with that knowledge, and you can really feel them working hard to give everyone as beautiful and magical experiences they could have.
Amazing. You have painted a very beautiful picture for us. I have to ask you the $1 million question. What is the first Disney snack you had while you were there?
Oh, this is tough because a few things were closed for the pass holder day. So I didn't get one of the things I would have liked. But what I did end up getting was a Dole Whip. I mean, frozen pineapple juice with sugar. You can't go wrong. And it was one of those hot July days. I had a delicious Dole Whip. And then I did get myself a Mickey bar later in the day. So I had 2 frozen treats in one day.
Classic. Well done.
Fun fact, the CDC actually recommends Dole Whip as a treatment for COVID.
Oh, dear.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. I guess it means I need to go back. Many people don't know this. They also serve it at Disney Springs, and you can also get it at the Polynesian Resort. So you don't have to be in the park to get it.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us. I think that you've probably reassured a lot of our listeners, and certainly Adam and I, we've been talking a lot about how we definitely do trust Disney. We just don't necessarily trust Florida right now. So this is all very reassuring.
I absolutely understand that. And I think for that reason, many people are kind of giving themselves a little buffer window. They're thinking ahead. So thankfully, Disney did just open all reservations through the end of 2020 through late September of 2021. So if anyone's listening and they're ready to kind of put in a plan, those park pass reservations are limited. So it's a good idea to kind of pick your dates. Disney's super flexible on cancellations too. So if you want to just kind of put in a reservation and then sit on it and think about it for a while, all of these reservations are refundable. But if people are interested in thinking about traveling, have them, reach out, find me on my website, and I'll be happy to take care of them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Chris. I'm sure we will be checking in with you again very shortly.
Thanks. It was great to talk to you guys again.
Well, thanks again to Chris from Wishful Thinking. Before moving on, Adam, how are you feeling after all of that?
I feel reassured. And listen, if it was a park full of Adams and Patricks, I would feel so confident because we are relatively sane and following precautions and being careful. But the world isn't full of Adam and Patricks. I guess, thank God, tongue pop. So, I don't know, Patrick. I'm hopeful, and also I just need to be wary. That's just my general kind of feeling throughout all of this.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I'm still weighing out whether or not I'm going to go in November for the Run Disney trip. I'm pretty confident, Tweedledees out there, that they are going to cancel the Run Disney event. You heard it here first, but that's obviously not news yet. But whether or not they cancel, I'm still weighing out if I'm going to go in November. But hearing from Chris has sort of pushed me a little closer to making that choice to go. So who knows? Who can say?
Maybe I'll go with you. I don't know. Is that crazy? I don't know.
Well, it will be my birthday, Adam. I want to have you with me in the parks 6 feet apart, at least, for my birthday.
There's no better way to celebrate, friend.
than 6 feet apart.
Yep.
Fair enough. So now that Disney World has begun its reopening of the parks and 2020 tickets are now on sale and resort reservations are now available, some operational changes are being made to the way you'll experience your trip. First, the Magical Express luggage delivery service from Orlando International Airport to Walt Disney World will be suspended starting on July 16th. The Magical Express bus will still operate to and from Disney resorts. However, guests will need to check and retrieve their own luggage and bring it with them to the Magical Express location. At your resorts, you will still be able to store your luggage at Bell Services, and they will still transport your luggage to your room if you wish. However, you will no longer be able to use the Disney Resort to check in for your return flight home, and you will be in charge of ensuring your luggage is loaded onto the bus with you for the ride back to the airport. Transportation to and between parks will also look a little different. Guests using the Disney Parks parking lots will have a cashless payment system to enter the parking lot. Trams, however, will not be provided from the parking lot to the front of the park. Guests will be required to walk from their car to the park. The horror of it all.
Walking? What?
Can you even imagine?
How does one pack a Segway?
Good question. Buses and monorails between the parks will use a combination of physical distancing and physical barriers to separate parties, and the Skyliner will load one party per gondola. When it comes to entering the parks, the fingerprint scanners will no longer be in use. As of right now, cast members will be using iPads to check in guests. Disney has also updated their policy on face coverings. Neck gaiters and open chin bandanas are no longer acceptable. The new guidelines now list requirements for what is an acceptable face covering. It must be made with at least 2 layers of breathable material. It must fully cover the nose and mouth and secure under the chin. It must fit snugly but comfortably against the side of the face, and it must be secured with ties or ear loops and allow the guest to remain hands-free. Once you are in the parks, each of the 4 Disney World parks will offer mask-free relaxation zones for guests who require a break from not spreading COVID-19.
Okay.
Heyo.
Some of those locations, though, Patrick, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I trust Disney, but I saw that Pizza Safari is one of the locations. And I understand it's hot and you want to be in an air-conditioned environment, but I am not going indoors to pop that mask off.
Yeah, I'm not super into it. So as you said, guests will be able to remove their mask in these designated areas while remaining socially distant from other guests who are spread 10 feet apart at least. These zones will likely move around in the parks depending on the needs of each park, or they may be removed at any time. As we have previously reported, Disney World is not using fast passes or virtual queues for the attractions. However, many guests have reported seeing a virtual queue option appear on the menu of their My Disney Experience app. The option does not list any available attractions yet, and it is not appearing for all guests. But this could mean that they are in the testing phase of rolling out a virtual queue option in the near future. So, Adam, I'm sure upwards of 19 things have changed at Walt Disney World during the recording of this news segment. But let's move on to Disneyland. So far, no new opening date has been set for Disneyland or Disney California Adventure, making it the last of the Disney parks worldwide to remain closed. However, the Disneyland resorts have started accepting reservations starting on August 1st. Lastly, any Disney pin traders out there likely know that 2020 marks the Disney Pin's 20th anniversary. Usually, Walt Disney World hosts an annual pin trading event in Epcot, and this year would have been the biggest year yet. However, keeping guest and cast members' safety in mind, Disney has moved the event from the parks to an online virtual event. Disney released a statement saying, guests will still have the chance to discover and purchase from the unique collection of pins created for this event and virtually connect with fellow pin fans to remember and reminisce on 20 years of pin trading. Details on dates and logistics have not yet been released. It should be noted, however, that pin trading within the parks is still happening, but it will be very minimal. Cast members will no longer have lanyards with pins to trade. Instead, select locations will have a pin board for guests to trade with. Once a guest has selected the pin they want, the cast member will set the pin on the counter for you to pick up. You will then drop your pin in a bucket that will be sanitized prior to being placed back on the board. Guest-to-guest pin trading is still allowed, but you are highly encouraged to respect social distancing and sanitize your pins. So maybe just don't do it for now.
Just take a break.
Yes, to quote from Hamilton, take a break.
Did you hear that one of the exclusive pins they're releasing for the celebrating 20 years of Disney pins is a pin that says, not a Karen?
I am here for that.
Former San Francisco 49ers quarterback and social justice hero Colin Kaepernick will be featured in an exclusive docuseries produced by ESPN Films as part of a first-look deal with the Walt Disney Company. According to a July 6, 2020 ESPN.com article, the deal between Kaepernick's production arm, Raw Vision Media, and Disney will focus on telling scripted and unscripted stories that explore race, social injustice, and the quest for equity. It will also provide a platform to showcase the work of minority directors and producers. Kaepernick's deal with the Walt Disney Company will extend across all Disney platforms, including Walt Disney Television, ESPN, Hulu, Pixar, and The Undefeated, a platform that explores the intersections of race, sports, and culture. Of the partnership, Kaepernick stated, quote, "I am excited to announce this historic partnership with Disney across all of its platforms to elevate Black and brown directors, creators, storytellers, and producers, and to inspire the youth with compelling and authentic perspectives. I look forward to sharing the docuseries of my life story in addition to many other culturally impactful projects we are developing," end quote. Disney Executive Chairman Bob Iger stated, quote, "During this unprecedented time, the Walt Disney Company remains committed to creating diverse and inclusive content that resonates and matters. Colin's experience gives him a unique perspective on the intersection of sports, culture, and race, which will undoubtedly create compelling stories that will educate, enlighten, and entertain, and we look forward to working with him on this important collaboration," end quote. So, Patrick, this is very exciting, and I was really surprised to see Pixar thrown into that list as one of the platforms where Colin's deal kind of extends.
Absolutely. This is incredibly exciting for so many reasons, not least of which he is a beautiful, beautiful man.
Don't get me started, Patrick. Don't even get me started.
Adam, let's talk about something that feels very important right now. I'm talking about shopping.
It's all I can think about.
Shop Disney is finally looking into ways that they can release popular items online without causing fits of rage throughout the land.
I don't even think it's possible. Is that possible?
We're going to find out. We're going to find out, Adam. So Merch Pass is a new system that allows shoppers to enter a drawing for a chance to purchase limited release items. Instead of waiting in an online queue for the chance to purchase something, only to find out that it's sold out by the time you enter your credit card number, guests will now enter a drawing days before an item's release and will be notified via email if they were selected to purchase that item. You'll then be given a window of time to make your purchase. The first implementation of this new system will be used for the next series of the Disney Castle Collection with the Arendelle Castle from Frozen. From July 13th at 7 a.m. Pacific Time through July 14th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Time, guests can enter for a chance to purchase any of the items from the collection. A separate entry must be filled out for each item you want to purchase, and you can only enter once per item. The items available will be a 12-inch light-up Arendelle Castle, a journal, a pin, an ornament, and a 1,000-piece puzzle. Anyone selected from the random drawing will be notified by email on July 16th by 5 p.m. Pacific. Once selected, you'll have until July 17th to purchase. Things to remember: if you are selected, you are not required to purchase the item, and you must be registered with a shopdisney.com account to enter. Some bad news from what I've read: only legal residents of the U.S. and D.C. who are 18 and older are eligible to enter the drawing, which likely means I will be the mailing center once again for my friends around the world.
So much international postage.
It's true. It's very true.
Patrick, I got very excited when you said 12-inch, but then you finished it with Arendelle Castle, and I was like,
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. It is light up, though, so that's a little bit more reassuring.
I am excited once again. I just realized that both of the news stories I covered today had to deal with very hot menses.
Interesting. Do go on.
According to a July 7th, 2020 Variety exclusive, Zaddy Jude Law may be on his way to Neverland. The talented Mr. Ripley and Fantastic Beasts star is in talks to play the classic Disney villain Captain Hook in the studio's live-action Peter Pan film, Peter Pan and Wendy. Pete's Dragon director David Lowery is on board to direct the film with a script by Lowery and Pete's Dragon co-writer Toby Halbrooks. Sources say the release is expected to be theatrical and not go the Disney Plus streaming route. So what do you say, Patrick? Can you picture Jude Law as Captain Hook?
I would like to give that Captain Hook a hand, Adam. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Everyone knows what you mean, Patrick. Everyone.
What a multi-layered joke that was. I'm so proud of myself.
I think now is the time, Patrick, that we reach out to the costume designer for this film and recommend that they just cinch in those Captain Hook costumes just enough, just to make them a little bit form-fitting.
Yeah, I agree. We want to see his Fantastic Beast. Adam Angelica Hummel.
Patrick Peggy Kazaki.
I am so excited about today's main segment. We are interviewing the charming, the delightful, the very talented, the one and only Sydney James Harcourt.
Sydney James Harcourt. How would I know that name?
Well, Adam, you may know him from a little show called Hamilton. On Broadway, he is an original cast member in that show.
Hamilton on Broadway. You mean the Hamilton that's also on Disney Plus right now?
The one and the same.
Hamilton Samesies.
Hamilton Samesies, bringing Broadway into your living rooms, kitchens, bathrooms, wherever you have a television.
And if there was ever a show to be brought into your kitchens or bathrooms, this is the show.
This is the show. This show can be watched anywhere. Outdoors, indoors, on a plane, on a train, with green eggs and ham, you name it.
Sydney made history as one of the only people to play almost every male lead in the show, Patrick, including, here we go, Jefferson, Lafayette, Washington, King George, and he ultimately took over the role of Aaron Burr from the one, the only, Leslie Odom Jr. after Leslie departed the show.
That's right. He was the very first person to play that role after Leslie Odom Jr. And this is all on top of his original ensemble roles that he was already doing in the show. Incredible work.
Yeah, if you've seen Hamilton on Disney Plus, you know how important the ensemble is in really kind of setting the scene and creating the atmosphere. And Sydney was a large part of that magic.
Absolutely. For my money, they are doing sort of the majority of the heavy lifting in the show. It's really incredible to watch.
And looking fantastic while they do it.
Amen. Amen. So Sydney has, beyond Hamilton, also appeared on and off Broadway, starring in productions like Disney's The Lion King. You may have heard of that show. He played Simba. He was in Green Day's American Idiot. And he was most recently seen as Joe Scott in the critically acclaimed, Adam, original American cast of Bob Dylan's Girl from the North Country at the Public Theater.
On top of all of those accomplishments, Patrick, he has also appeared in numerous television shows and films, including Disney's Enchanted.
It's true. If there was a procedural drama, you probably have seen him in an episode or two.
He actually played a crime scene investigator in Enchanted.
And the crime was not enough Idina Menzel in that movie. So Sydney is a Grammy Award winner and very sought-after New York vocalist. I talk a little bit about it in the interview. If you have not seen the Hamilton Blueprint, go on YouTube immediately and look up Sydney James Harcourt, Hamilton Blueprint. You will be blown away.
That is a must-do before you listen to this interview.
I think so. I am obsessed with it. Absolutely obsessed.
Also, if you have not seen Hamilton, maybe watch Hamilton on Disney Plus before this interview, but there's no need to do it because it's also an excellent kind of introduction to the musical world of Hamilton.
Adam waited 67 years before he listened to or watched Hamilton, so you have some time, folks.
I like to think I am right where I need to be culturally if we were living in the year 2015.
You're right in that 5-year pocket.
Right in that pocket, Patrick.
I'm trying to figure out, actually, I had the privilege of seeing Hamilton on Broadway. I'm going to have to slip into Sydney's DMs, you know what I'm saying, to see if he was in the show at that time. I don't remember. I don't think I have the playbill anymore.
I was waiting for you to bring up the fact that you actually had seen Hamilton on Broadway, and I'm proud of you for doing so.
I've seen it on Broadway, and I've seen it on tour. Don't judge me. Don't treat me any differently. It's okay. I'm just like you guys.
Well, if you'd like to check out Sydney on social media, you can find him on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Sydney Harcourt, and you can find him on Facebook at Sydney James Harcourt.
Or you can read up all about Sydney on his website, sydneyharcourt.com. So without further ado, Adam, let's just jump into our delightful conversation with the amazing Sydney James Harcourt. Sydney, hello, and welcome to Gays Do the D.
I've always wanted to be on a show called Gays Do the D, so thank you for having me.
That's what we do here. We make dreams come true.
Thank you. No, it is. It is. I didn't think it would happen. So
already off to a great start.
But I have prepared for this moment.
Uh-oh. Well, speaking of, so as you know, we are a Disney podcast, Sydney. We'd like to get everyone's sort of Diz-tory, give us a Diz-tory lesson of your background. We know that you were in The Lion King, and we know, of course, that that Hamilton was on Disney Plus. But what is your background before all of this? Were you a Disney fan as a kid growing up?
Oh, I mean, I was Disney obsessed as a kid in terms of like those, iconic cartoons. I, saw those in the theater. I am that old. And like Bambi and, oh my God. I mean, literally every cartoon is an event for a kid, in Detroit who doesn't think they're going to go see any Broadway shows anytime soon. So like what you wait for is for Disney to give you another gift of these movies. And so me, like every other child, just, loved them and dreamed of playing Aladdin one day if it ever came to Broadway. Now, that didn't happen, but we have time, Disney, to rectify that. And then, I mean, in terms of like, the rest of my Disney experience, it's just always been like I associate, Disney and, Mickey Mouse with magic. I'm a fantasy nut, and the Sorcerer's Apprentice is like so iconic for me. It's one of my favorite things.
Well, let's start talking about Hamilton, shall we?
Yes.
And before we get into the movie that's currently on Disney Plus, we want to know how your journey with Hamilton started. Can you tell us a little bit about the audition process, about how long it was and what you experienced through it?
Yeah. In New York, they have a lot of experimental, like new developmental theater always going on. Like during the daytime, there's, new shows that are trying to, have readings and have productions. They try out their things in New York because they want to try and get the professionals that can really flesh these pieces out and make them come to life. So I was kind of on a short list for performers in the business who are comfortable with popular music, R&B and pop and rapping. I had learned to like really honed my rap chops on stage with a wedding band I was in to like, survive. So Bernard Telsey Company kind of knew that. I had auditioned for a couple different rap things. And so they gave me a call for this, crazy play that was going to be the forefathers rapping, their way through the life of Alexander Hamilton. And they gave me Right Hand Man and asked me to sing a ballad. And it was just me and the music director. So it wasn't like an open call situation, this was not for a production. This was for the workshop. So they were able to kind of like just give some calls to some people they knew to come in and be seen. So I went in for the amazing Alexander Lackamoire, who got, I think maybe his first Broadway credit in the pit of The Lion King as the rehearsal pianist. He played my audition for Simba. So,
wow.
Yeah. So he even, I don't know if he'll admit to this, but he was the music director on my first demo.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he'll probably admit to it. We had fun. But so, all these years later, here he is, I'm walking in. And so that gives you a good feeling, going into an audition when you have history with somebody. And it went well. And then I had a call back to do the same things, except Lynn was going to be there and they were videotaping for Tommy, the director, Tommy Kail. And I did the same material, but they gave me a new song the night before called History Has Its Eyes on You. And I came in and Lynn was there and he said, hey, I haven't heard this yet. I just finished it. So you're going to be the first person I hear sing it.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I did History Has Its Eyes on You. And there's no way. You do so many auditions, right? That you get like, for your own health, you get in the habit of not caring about and not obsessing over what you did or how much you wanted that show, or, you just are doing, and you're doing many of them. And I was in another workshop for a show at the time when I auditioned for it. So I just was trying to hit them and do my best work and move on. You can't know in the moment of singing History Has Its Eyes on You for Lynn's ears for the first time the weight of what you're doing, right? And it's right there in the song, and I'm not even listening. Um, so I booked it from that. I booked the show and did the workshop, which is around 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks of staging rehearsals. We'd staged the entire first act, and then we did the second act at music stands, and with just kind of minimal staging. And by the end, we were all like a sobbing mess, and kind of felt like we had a little skit. And then they, actually, they took the same cast, almost the same cast, to the public, and then the same, to Broadway. So I didn't have to audition again for the show, thankfully. And so, yeah, in a very nonchalant kind of way, when you're in the midst of your hustle of life, you do the most important audition you might ever do.
Oh, that's a great lesson to learn right there, right off the bat.
You always do your best work, right? You got to always, you don't know what something's going to become. Geez, my agents had said to me, when I got offered it, they said, well, they want you for Hamilton and the Hamilton mixtape, as it was called. And if you, just accept it for now, we'll get something, better, and you can get out of it. But I would say, say yes for now. And
wow,
girl, if I had been like, yeah, guys, no, I'm good. I'm gonna go do. Yeah, no, I just got an offer from Phantom. I'm really, no shade on Phantom. I love that show, but I'm happy I stuck with this little musical that could.
Yeah, I imagine. So speaking of, did you know pretty quickly that it would become sort of the juggernaut that it is now? Or was there a specific moment where it sort of clicked into place of what this beast was?
I don't know what this beast is today.
Fair.
And so it is constantly, it's, evolving and surprising me like the alien presence in, a sci-fi movie. So yes and no. Yes, mostly no. Yes, on the side that, as somebody who has, had been in New York for a while and had auditioned for everything that came, who I used to go to all the open calls and got all the material. And, shortly before that had been Holla If You Hear Me, the Tupac Shakur musical, which had like crashed and burned so hard. You knew that rap was around the fringes of musical theater trying to like get in, but you didn't think it was going to be done right. And so to hear this material from the first times was like, oh, this is fun. This is like something I'd bump. And that in and of itself, particularly for me, felt like the omen I had always been waiting for, because I couldn't understand why there wasn't more of a popular music sound on Broadway. Like Broadway used to set what was on the top 10 on the radio based on like what was in their season. And then it just kind of took a turn around the early 60s where it was like, later for being popular, and became this, it became, the sound that it became, that they associate with theater music, that's something that's not the, what you're going to ever hear on the radio or feel like you can sing along with, or it's just too intellectual or something like that. And I knew that eventually there was a way to tell story and forward plot and be intellectual and still be writing songs that people want to bump in their car. So first hearing that, it felt like that gong goes off inside you, like, oh my God, this is that show. Wait for it. Actually sounds like a R&B hit that Neo wants to sing, not something that's trying to be a copy of his last album, right? And so I kind of figured, I think all of us generally figured, it would be the biggest thing on Broadway that season. It would get a lot of attention. And that in and of itself was a reason, to, especially, having been involved in the preliminary stages, was a reason to stick with it, because you just really felt like, especially with the way they were casting it and the talent that they had gotten, it was this dream team. So that all felt right. There is no way I could have thought that we were going to win, a Pulitzer and go to the White House and meet the Obamas 3 times. And, you know, I remember the first like big star that came was, that at least I knew of, was Busta Rhymes.
Oh, wow.
And this is back at the Public during previews when you could still walk up and get a ticket for that night, and empty seats. And somebody in the ensembles came back like midway through the first act, and they're like, "Hey, you guys, did you see that fool in the front row sitting there with a huge gold chain trying to be Busta Rhymes, like all like, you know, got the hoodie on, like the whole thing." I legitimately like I thought it was Busta Rhymes at first. It's crazy. You got to see this guy. And then by intermission, it was, oh my God, no, I think that's Busta Rhymes. What? Busta Rhymes is at the Public Theater in the front row. It's a small theater. It's like performing for him, like sitting there on the couch. The front row of the Public Theater is like having the person in your show.
Yeah.
It was very distracting and amazing. And that sort of like, so that's the first time you're like, whoa, like somebody like really A-list, like pop music came and, you know, saw my show. And then like the floodgates opened. And then we moved to Broadway. And it never stops surprising me with the things that it does to the world and to my life. I can't still conceive of, we're in the first days of Hamilton being able to just be streamed endlessly as many times as you want, paused, rewound, you know. I really think it's going to have such a phenomenal impact on so many levels. And I'm kind of just keeping myself like completely ignorant, and I'm just going to be surprised by everything that happens.
Yeah, that's what you have to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't, like, where am I going to go at this point? Hamilton will be the first musical beamed into space for humans to leave a record of art. Like, I don't know. Maybe it'll be on some time capsule in, you know, 2045 that makes it to, you know, another planet. I know that's crazy, but this musical seems to do things that are crazy.
Well, before Broadway and before the Public,
Yeah.
you were in rehearsals for the show. Can you talk a little bit about what rehearsals were like? Was the show pretty locked when you came into rehearsals, or were Lin-Manuel Miranda and the director who you mentioned, Thomas Kail, were they open to the cast's input during that process?
It was like so fluid, the show. Nothing was locked. If somebody, you know, made a mistake and said a word that is what they meant, but wasn't the word that they couldn't, you know, they were trying to remember, that would be, Lynn, no, that's the word. We had so much material that kept getting whittled down. And yeah, the actors were heavily involved with how the characters fit and what lines get kept and what needs to be added. And, you know, that's one of the great things in theater is if you hire a smart actor who really does the work, they can find a lot of these answers that, you know, are the connective glue and tissue for the show. They can, you know, if you're trying to cut words, they can act those words that you wanted in the script, and we can skip that. And, you know, they can do it with a look or a silence or with a note. And as far as the staging and the choreo, that experience to be in the ensemble of Hamilton really was like Broadway magic. Andy took us, we would go, you know, the rehearsal schedule would say, like, it would have like Renee and Chris and, you know, Lynn rehearsing, you know, Schuyler Sisters or something, you know, the scene, or, you know, working on some lead thing in one room. And then it would say like 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 in the penthouse, which was one of the studios, dancers with Andy, TBD. And that's all it would say. And you'd walk in, and this like Broadway icon would be in a room with this small group of people and be saying, okay, so here's what I've got. This is the shape. So I want to show you kind of like the language I'm working with. These are little pieces. And I know we're going to like kind of put this together as we go throughout this song. But let's start with like some certain movements that we've sort of developed. And that like a lot of, I think what we started with was my shot. that kind of like slide back with the legs that happens. And we also started with some of the language that we did for the iconic like first number, the Alexander Hamilton number, where like we're turning pages on Scammon and like little hand movements and hip hop, language that Andy had, learned in his quest for that material. He went to LA for a long time to do that. And then also that these dancers lived. Some of us were sleeping in our car or sleeping on, floors of apartments or attics of, houses out in Jersey, before we got this show, because you don't make a lot of money as, a dancer, primarily, not all the time, especially, then. So we piece by piece, like really kind of developed it all together. And Andy would borrow from us and we would take his language and make it fit on us. And he was really open to invention and for a great idea. He would say, I need a word for my brother's revolutionary covenant. What do you think of movement? Everybody go. And then you just start moving, trying to embody up to my brother's revolutionary covenant. What does that make you feel? How do you want to move? How do you want to, right? Because a lot of us are, especially if you go to the club, you just kind of freestyle and the songs, you're trying to like do your best lip sync for your life. And so that's what we kind of did in there, was like come up with language. And piece by piece, we stitched that together. The show felt like a ballet, because there were very few times that you get to walk off stage and go sit down somewhere. Like you're walking off stage to change or to walk to another entrance or to grab a piece of furniture that you're bringing on, or you're bringing a piece of furniture off. It's always some capacity of movement. And so it felt like we developed this machine that once you turn it on, it goes in rhythm and time and doesn't stop for the next 2 hours and 45 minutes. And that it'll be one of the highlights of my career for the rest of my life, was having developed that show in, an iconic studio, 1080 Broadway. I don't think they even have those rooms anymore, where I had auditioned for my first Broadway show. And so, there was a lot that was created from the workshop forward. I mean, Lynn had gone through this book and written up, a ton of raps about different parts of Hamilton's life and with characters that fleshed out the story. So that material was bountiful and there, but there was so much that he would be in the room with headphones on, like a mad scientist, when two pigtails in like some Rugrats pajamas. And he would like come rushing into the room with a new change for Alex Lacamoire that we would then fit into the number that we were staging or that we were rehearsing the vocals for. They were always like communicating between rooms, either by running back and forth or by sending files. And then if Lynn like was in staging rehearsals, he would regularly step out and have Javier Munoz, who was his cover and alternate on Sundays, he would step in and he would then perform the material so that Lynn could, in his capacity as like creative team, watch what we were doing and see, what he felt it needed. So it was a unique and really inventive artistic process. If I could, in a lot of ways, in terms of like the process, I think it's the perfect way to build a show, to get actors you trust, and then everybody builds it together, a group of artists in a room building something together. It's wonderful.
I love that. I have to ask you, you specifically are doing some pretty incredible voguing, like a true queen in this show. Is that
That's
from
God.
you? Did you bring that?
God.
That's God.
Yes, I'm actually like, to be, honest, as soon as I'm done with this podcast, I am turning on HBO Max for Legendary.
Okay.
I found my home in New York when I found drag culture and gay queer culture. I'd never been to a gay bar in Michigan. I was just so afraid to be out at all. Even though I had come out at 15, I had gone to like an art school, and so, it was okay at least. And then I was in musical theater school in college, and like everybody's gay, you know, for a period of time. Some of them aren't anymore. And I kind of felt like when I first, like my roommate who was in Cats, and he was a subletter. A guy I met, his name was Mark, and he was in Cats, and a dancer, and he was like, "You've got to go to Barracuda. You've never been out. I'll get you in." I was 19, and so he took me, and I saw Edie, the iconic drag queen, perform at Barracuda, and I couldn't believe the crowd was going crazy. It's just so funny, and it just felt like Community, the drag show, and it felt like a place for people who were different and also like loved entertainment, and these performers were breathtaking. So I found my home there. I performed with all of them. I backup danced for them. I would sing with them. The incredible Sade Pendavis and Raven O down at Bardot when they had cabarets, and Joey Arias and Flotilla DeBarge, and did Wigstock, and with Lady Bunny, and really like I loved the community. When you're a chorus guy with Dreams of More in New York, and you're like, just moving there, you feel like you have to be this jack of all trades that, has to go to commercial auditions and has to, try and get into like modeling gigs, and you're going to every open call, and you're constantly learning new choreo, and you have to go into meetings with, managers and casting directors, and like present yourself. It feels like an episode of Drag Race. It feels like mini challenges and maxi challenges. And I felt like that was the kind of jack of all trades showmanship I saw in the gay community at our bars and at our clubs. And, it was amazing. I mean, even Dominique from Pose, I was one of the flyer boys for Crash Club in Queens. And we used to chill in the like back lounges, before we go out and like, shake a tail feather. So I was obsessed with the art form of voguing and the culture of the ballroom scene, and a place of acceptance, for these things that we love, which is like the send up of masculinity and these ideas of what is masculine and what is feminine and who you can be, and so when I was in the show, as playing a lead part, unless the character is gay, you're not representing gay culture for gay people. But as an ensemble member who plays a bunch of characters in the show that maybe don't have, that they're just saying, you are this townsperson, you are this revolutionary, you are, a soldier in this. You get to be kind of whatever person you want to be. And I knew there were gay people in the army, even back at the Revolutionary War. So when we're about to give it up for Lafayette, first of all, Paris is burning. So when is more perfect a time to vogue than Lafayette? I'm taking this for the rains, making red coats, bitter with blood stains. And, Andy had told us all the way back in the workshop, he'd said, on those 32 counts, guess what, guys? I want you just to freestyle. No, like so rarely does a choreographer in a Broadway show tell you that you're going to get 32 counts of freestyle in their show. So I was like, well, let's see how open they are to different types of representation. And so, and I had had an amazing dancer named JP Moraga teach me, really kind of give me like instruction in Vogue and how to, what it is and how to move my body. And so I had learned around like 2012, I had really sort of gotten into it and would practice. I was doing regional theater, and I would practice in my condo at night, move all the furniture and try and get my 6'1" ass down into a death drop. Gotta stretch those quads, girl.
Where's Alyssa Edwards when you need her?
Honey, I know. So I had respect for it, and I was so happy that after in the first kind of time I really had done it and gone like how you see me go hard in the film and in like a clip I've posted, and I'm right down front. Andy came to me after the next day in notes, and he says, to us, "Oh, okay, so Sydney, we're voguing in 18th century America now. And I told him, I was like, I'm screaming Lafayette up in here, and Paris is over there burning in the revolution. I'm going to vogue it down. And that, from that point on, I was allowed to keep it in. But little known fact, if you watch me in the end of the Reynolds pamphlet from when Angelica leaves,
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe it's in the film. I'm just going to say that. I'm shenanigans McGee. And when you see where it goes, you're going to die laughing. I'm not telling you anything else. You just got to watch for me up center when Renee walks out of the Reynolds pamphlet. I'm sure that nobody in the editing room ever noticed it because there would be a blur. It is. I can't wait.
And to think that moment is going to be broadcast to space or put in a time capsule one day.
And I am the representative of the culture. Yes. It's all coming. It's all going the way I planned.
Exactly.
Well, Sydney, the show has a very poignant message to it, particularly surrounding immigrants. And you are married to an American immigrant, correct?
Yes, I am.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how that kind of influenced how you approached the show and if it kind of imbued any kind of special meaning for you within the rehearsals and the performance of the show?
Yeah, it's pretty deep. It's also, and I hadn't had this thought until maybe now, but I met my husband almost in conjunction with when I, was auditioning for and had booked Hamilton. So he saw back when, we weren't husbands, he saw the workshop. I think he saw like all of the, performances of it. And it had a profound effect on him learning about Alexander Hamilton being an immigrant and how far he came in the world with his determination. And this is a guy who had flown to New York with, I think, like $500 and slept in Central Park and was like, I'm going to figure out how to make it. I'm going to figure it out. And so for me, building the show, seeing how much this show means to him and also to me, because he's here, it did have particular significance and still does. It's so hard for immigrants in their own countries a lot of the time, especially if you're gay. And it's really hard for him. And he's not out to his parents and, most of the people that he works with because of the fear that it can so quickly get back to his family. I'm even talking around like where he lives. I even feel like I'm saying too much and I don't want to cause problems. That's how uncomfortable it is where he's from. And he's thinking of going back soon, like in like 2 days, to come out. And I got to tell you, like, I'm a little terrified,
Mm-hmm.
Especially now, especially with what goes on with this, I was going to say regime, with who's in control right now. And anything could happen. And autocratic leaders across the globe have gained power. And the plight of the immigrant is more palpable now, maybe than ever, because conditions just got suddenly worse for them during a pandemic. So yes, it did, it did have a lot of significance for me then. I think it was, during that time that laws changed and we were allowed to get married and that it would be federally recognized. So a lot has changed now, But I think it's even more important that the story of an immigrant whose contribution to our way of life is incalculable. It's still every day. I feel that struggle, even, today. I worry. So, yeah.
Ooh, we're going deep here on Gays Do the D.
Honey, you asked about immigration and gay marriage. What you want?
Okay, fair. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's an incredible story for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful for when it's not a big deal, and I can post pictures and talk about it and celebrate it, because I had a really my mom kept me in the dark about sociology and how the world really was, and she was like, yes, grow up and do it, be like however you want to be. You can like whatever colors you want, you can play with dolls, you can do whatever you want. And then you get to public school and you're like, what have you done to me? And so I wish, kind of, I maybe perversely, for everybody to have that experience of acceptance in their worlds, not like abject fear.
Get out there and vote, everybody. You heard it
Come
right
on.
here.
Keep voting, keep posting.
Amen. So, okay, let's switch gears just a smidge. Let's bring up the positivity here and go back to Hamilton.
Okay. All right.
So, anyone who hasn't seen your YouTube of doing the Hamilton Blueprint is missing out. First of all, it's absolutely incredible.
Oh my God.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
I watch it a lot more often than I want to admit to.
Oh my God, really?
Oh, it's incredible.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well, so for anyone who doesn't know, it's sort of a send up, right, of all of the roles that you played in Hamilton, which is almost every single male role in the show. You were covering at one time for Aaron Burr, Washington, Lafayette, Thomas Jefferson, King George. Am I missing anybody?
No, I think you got them all. Aaron Burr, George Washington, King George, Thomas Jefferson, Lafayette. Yeah.
And this was all before you sort of stepped into the role of Aaron Burr. So what to you is the bigger challenge, I guess? Is it covering and having all of those roles in your head, or is it being in charge of one very enormous role on Broadway?
Oh, no. Covering is so hard. Like, it takes so much rehearsal because, especially when you're in a show that becomes like Hamilton becomes, when people come into the theater and they see that slip of paper in the program, they're like, no, right? And they hate you.
Yep.
So I kind of have always, known that going in as an understudy, you can't just go out. You've got to go out and win them over. And then you get to continue with an audience that's on your side, not an audience, that's disappointed. Having one to think about besides your track is a lot, but like to do four of them is a particular kind of like crazy. And I kind of requested it in a way because they wanted me initially just for George Washington off Broadway. And I was like, well, I'll do, I want to do Aaron Burr. I want to understudy that as well. That's the one I had my eye on. And I was like, so I would like to cover Aaron Burr and George Washington. And I threw in King George, because I love that song Beyond.
Yes.
Also as a sort of like, so I'll cover this too, if you let me cover Aaron Burr. And then they added Jefferson Lafayette when we got to Broadway. And yeah, you have to have a lot of rhythms in your head and a lot of different, I take shows beat by beat, and that's a lot of different, pieces of choreography, places in numbers, to stand in, to have versions in your head of like 4 different or 5 different places that you stand on stage in the same number can, be dangerous to say the least. But fun, like, a chance to like leave your mark and to do something that's, you gotta, as an artist, you kind of gotta set goals for yourself and try and achieve them, but you have to do more in order to, be noticed, or at least you have to do as much as you can, because it's hard to get notoriety in a city full of performers unless you have, sort of an entrance, or, you know, a family member in the business, or there's some sort of connection or nepotism, you know, or you went to the most amazing school ever. A lot of times it can just be hard to like break through the noise. So maybe there was a little effort in covering that many people as well, but it's Hamilton. Like, I want to do Guns and Ships. I want to fire that rap off. And if I want to have that experience on a stage with full production around me, I got to put in the work. So it was awesome. It was really awesome to cover so many. And, you know, I had been a swing in American Idiot on Broadway, and I had covered 9 ensemble tracks in that.
Wow.
So I'd had a little taste of that kind of mindset, and I'd been an understudy before. But my first time on for Aaron Burr, I found out at 12:30, and the show started at 2. A half-hour call was 1:30, and I had learned the choreography like sections for different, you know, numbers, one-on-one with a dance captain, and I'd worked on the songs, but I had, in terms of stage time, I'd had one day kind of walked through where I had about an hour and a half of, this is your entrance for this song, and then you exit out of this one. Okay, moving on to Scholar Sisters. You exit up from the center and you come down on that bump, dump, bump, dump. So they just kind of walked me through that. And then I was on. No costume of my own. They let out Leslie's costumes from the public. I had no time to rehearse any numbers. They had to, you know, get me into costume and find something I could wear. And they let me try the tablecloth jump in the room where it happens, so that I had at least done that one time with somebody. And I'm the one who pulls the tablecloth. So, so that person's going to be on and like wondering when I'm going to jump. Right. So it's this recipe for like madness, but I had, you know, done what I could to prepare myself as a cover and an understudy. And that is, you have to be so familiar with the material that you can do it while you do other things. And I would practice like folding laundry and doing laundry or doing the dishes and concentrating on other tasks, while I also would rapid fire off these lyrics and these songs, so that it became like a muscle memory situation, which, you know, is a real thing. It will keep you singing. It will keep you dancing, muscle memory, when you forget. And so that way I was able to like do all that material and be thinking and watching and looking at people like, okay, I can cross now before that dancer, you know, knocks me over. Or there's the book I'm supposed to grab. Okay, grab that. Okay, now give that to that person. There's a 1,000 little letters that go in different little boxes. And there's just so many parts that you have to set yourself up for success like that. So, yeah, that's so much harder. Playing the role it's hard, but you get to delve and every single day make nuanced choices that are like shades different to see what kinds of reactions you get out of the audience, so that you can lock in the best responses and like keep going through your show like that to try and perfect this show and your interpretation of this character. And that is such a rare gift as, you know, an actor. There's such a small percentage of actors who get to play amazing lead roles like that, and triple threat roles that demand all of your, you know, talents. So, yeah, that point for me was just one of my most blissful acting experiences, was getting to work on that character, Aaron Burr, day after day.
So, you know, we've talked about the public, we've talked about going to Broadway. Let's talk about the movie now that's on Disney Plus. It was filmed over the course of several days and several performances in 2016. And from what I can tell, there were times when an audience was present, and then there was a time when audiences weren't present for close-ups. Is that right?
That is. I guess we would have had to have been aware. I don't really remember being aware of the live performances that they were shooting. So I'm not sure, you know, I can see it in the shot sometimes, like, oh, this is from, you know, an actual show. But it was the times that we didn't. And they say that we did 2. It felt like 3. Maybe it was over 3 days. We did the show twice, filmed through it twice. Some, I think, in wide and overhead, and then another time in, you know, close, tight shots and like steady cam shots. And we would do certain numbers in certain sections like multiple times and then reset. And it was thrilling, and also like the most exhausted I've ever been. The weekend before was the Tonys, and we had done, the shows leading up to that excitement with the rehearsals and then the extra performances, and then back into your 8 shows a week. And then in your daytimes, you're also filming this movie. And at night, I was playing that week. I think I played Aaron Burr twice and George Washington once, besides doing my ensemble track, the other 5 shows, and then doing my track at night in the movie. It really was like it feels electric that time to be so like working so hard, like so amped up and doing so many like things that feel so like life-changing and epic. So to see it 4 years later, I had no idea what I'd done.
You were voguing. That's what you were doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I was like, well, we'll see if that makes the cut. And right, I really did. Going in, watching it, I thought, like, I wonder what did I do that night? I would play James Reynolds like 20 different kinds of ways, depending on the audience sometimes, and depending on like where I was in my journey in the show. And you're always finding out new things about people and new responses. But I was like, what will I see? Will I see myself? Right? Like, am I like going to say, yeah, I'm in the movie. I'm in the, okay, wait, pause it right there. Now you see that shadow? So I kind of thought that might be it. I wasn't, I had no idea. And to see how much they captured of the entire cast and give you that experience of, not only what it's like to see the show is actually different. I mean, in more ways than I think people recognize in this particular instance, because when you see the Broadway show, unless you're, Mariska Hargitay and come like 39 times, she was always there. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. She would chill in the stage management office with us, be like, "Hey, Sid." Yeah.
She narrated the book too, didn't she?
Did she?
I think she did.
Oh my God.
For Audible.
She's amazing. Yeah. So she's actually quite connected to the show and the experience of it, and we love her. But unless you're, connected to the show like that, you've waited, a year. You've waited 6 months. It's the most exciting thing. You got these tickets. Somebody surprised you for your birthday or something like that. You can only see so much. And you're trying so hard to watch the story and to hear the words that you're really kind of focused on our leading characters and are not necessarily aware of this ensemble that is dancing in this, how many of them are there? It seems like there's 35 of them. Right. And so, and you have hats on, you have these things, your work is there on display, but it's, it doesn't have necessarily the personalized nature that they get from, following another character's, journey in the show. And a lot of times it's in the periphery. The magic of it is that it frames everything and takes you to the places and gives you the context. But in this movie, people are pausing. And people have watched it once, and now on their third time, they're like, no, he did not do that in Reynolds' pamphlet. No, honey, I am Megan the Stallion. I'm a savage. So that's really great about, being able to watch it over and over again, is that I feel like we're all seen. And the America gets to celebrate the work of like a true theater ensemble in this film. I think it's lovely.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So Disney, as we know, kind of aggressively went after getting this for their platform. They paid, I believe, something like $75 million to have it on Disney Plus. Is there anything we can expect as far as a Hamilton-Disney partnership in the future? Any future projects with you?
Oh my gosh. I'm technically a Disney employee right now. And I plan to keep that as long as I can. 100%. I've been a Disney employee before. And I'm open, guys. What do you want me to do? One of my best friends is really involved with Disney, and they really love her, Nina West.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been a best friend of mine for like 15 years, 16 years. So if a corporation like Disney can get behind a queen like Nina West, then I would love to be partnered with them, because we need more of, that kind of representation.
We love Nina West. We actually had her on the pod not too long ago.
Oh my God, that fool. No, I like right now. I mean, and the thing I love is like when we're together, it's nonstop laughs. Like we are always coming up with punchlines for each other and doing things, and then writing a new house song and being insane. And I was watching her Instagram yesterday, and she posted a video in French drag,
Yes.
just saying bonjour. And I couldn't stop laughing. And I texted her, I was like, this is really dumb. And she's like, it's just dumb. I'm just being dumb. And so I'm really, Nina is, oh God, I can't tell you the joy it's brought me to watch my friend appear on my TV screen and then be loved by the world. Like, that's the world I want to live in. I'm in it. So actually, I'm trying to get Disney to send me and Nina to Disney World.
Oh my gosh.
I know. If I'm going to go with anybody, I want to go with Nina. And I mean, I've been, but I would love to do that. So that's where it starts, guys. I think it starts with, a sensible trip.
There's nothing sensible is going to come out of that
trip. Nothing. Zero.
Well, Sydney, Hamilton, this is kind of an understatement, but Hamilton changed the game and kind of pulled back the curtain on what inclusive and representative casting can look like. What can we do as audience members and artists to encourage and foster that representation going forward?
I think we have to be more mindful of where we spend our dollars and what we spend our time on, I suppose. If something isn't representative of the world, or do you think is a little too, imagining a world in which, we don't have like this vast array of culture and color that we live in, then is that something that we want to keep celebrating? There are so many shows and TV shows, and I mean, now more than ever with all of these streaming platforms, there's so much content out there. And I I flip through so many of them, and I'll see so little representation of people of color and of queer people. Now we're getting to a point where it's like queer culture has really become a lot more mainstream. And so it's, as an entertainment, it's out there, and you see some sassy gay characters out there. But for the most part, these shows still kind of, for a while, they've been the same. I kind of thought I kind of thought that when Hamilton opened and they saw the magic of not only casting against, race, but not even having like a formula behind it by, for instance, casting them all as traditional African American types. They decided to just completely cast it however, whatever actor really fit the part, that's the one. Doesn't matter what the race is. We thought that was going to kind of like blow the doors off of type and what kind of roles you could play on Broadway as a person of color. And then the problem was the offerings that kept coming down the line after that still seemed mostly in the world of theater before, and the kind of the same stories that we're telling, rather than ones that lend themselves to this new idea. So I actually think that right now, with the social movement that's going on since the spark that ignited it with George Floyd and his brutal murder, I kind of feel like we have gained the cultural awareness, at least, that we can talk about it. And then Hamilton comes out right now as that example again. It's 4 years later, but it's on a mass level. And I do think that this time it's going to make changes. And even in the material that I've been getting, like literally auditions just kind of started up again in the past like couple weeks for like sending in tapes and things to casting directors. And our material already is better and inclusive and parts that you feel like you can fit into. And I do think that this trickle down effect of, you know, Hamilton being one of the most popular entertainments ever, they will look to how did they cast it? They didn't everything against the rules. Maybe that's what we should do. So that's really exciting.
I love that. They sort of made the new rules of how we should look at casting going forward.
Yeah. Well, you know, as an actor, you accept type. You accept type in storytelling. It's like I knew auditioning for the Scottsboro Boys that I wasn't necessarily going to be cast as one. You go to auditions for just to show your stuff to Susan Stroman, right? Because storytelling wise, I'm so light skinned that, and I look like multiple races because of my mix, that's going to be like confusing in the storytelling. It doesn't make me any less black. It's just that that's not the tool for the story we're telling. We can't say, okay, so there were 7 Scottsboro boys and a Puerto Rican boy while you're sitting in the audience. And I understand that and you accept that, but then it gets you into this mode of kind of accepting that things are just the way they are in theater and that you just have to try and be 5 times as good in order to, like, you know, make a mark or do something. And then suddenly culture shift happens like it has in 2020, and improbably, and against any expectations I have, the movie is released. And I just really feel like that's one of these impacts that I'm talking about, that I say that we don't know, but will have this impact down the road. I think the way they cast that and how America responds is going to kind of be a larger message to the entertainment industry on like how things can be and how thinking of new things, that's the way to freshen up the whole industry, is let's just reflect America today. Let's just try it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we as audiences should be demanding that too, that we see what the world looks like on film and on stages.
Well, you know, that's where it comes on us to spend our dollars on those things and spend our time reaching out to support those things, because that's how we get more of it. If you just watch something and spend your time with it, even though you don't necessarily agree with it, but everybody's tweeting about it and it's kind of funny, you're part of the problem a little bit, because, you know, I'm not mad at people for watching something that's not quote unquote woke, that's entertaining, but if it's not promoting, you know, the world we want to see, we're never going to get there. So I think we just have to kind of take control. That's how we take control as people, you know, consumers of entertainment. That's how shows live and die, right? Do people come and buy the tickets? So if you don't like what a show has to say, just because it's the new musical or the new movie, and that's what you go do, you go see it, we got to rethink that. We got to say, you know what, I'm going to pass on this one because I don't actually think that this tells the story of, you know, the America that I want to live in, or I've heard this a bunch of times, and let's be more inventive and let's, you know, give new voices, new writers. Who's writing the show? Who's producing the show? Let's just be invested. So that's what we can do.
I love it. That's a perfect answer. Well done. Well said. Well, Sydney, we want to be mindful of your time. We know you have Legendary to get to. So one more question for you. So if history has its eyes on you, Sydney, other than being a legendary voguer, what do you want to be known for and remembered for?
Oh, you know, I believe that we all have the power to shape our realities, to be whatever we want to be. You just have to believe in it enough and you have to focus it enough. And when I go back and teach or work with kids or, you know, do any kind of master classes, that's the main thing I try to get into their heads, that there are just no limitations on what you can achieve, no matter what you've heard, that if you believe that you can do it, you can do it. So, I love singing and dancing, and I love entertaining. It's something I love to do. So to do it for a living is really a blessing. And I hope am able to, as an actor, you always hope that you're able to give people, a catharsis, or, help them understand something in their own lives, or touch them deeply by watching your work and watching your character go through something that you're living out in front of them, so that they can, by proxy, experience it. So that's great. I would love to be known for, helping change people through art. But more so than that, I would love to be able to let everybody know this secret that there are no limits on what you can do, and that it's all based on, how hard you're willing to work and what you believe, to get a little esoteric.
Well, Sydney, thank you so much for many, many things. We want to thank you for joining us in this episode, and we also want to thank you for your incredible talents, for sharing those with us, and for sharing your thoughts on being a teacher and how we can become better citizens of the world. And really, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your experiences with us here on Gays Do the D.
Oh, thank you so much. Having your platform, and being able to talk about these kinds of things is such a blessing. And so I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching all 12 minutes of the Blueprint.
It's so good. It's so good.
I'm like, no one's ever going to watch this, man.
No, everyone needs to watch it immediately.
Just thank you for having me and being interested in hearing from me, because, a young, chorus boy with dreams doesn't think anybody's going to care what he has to say, growing up. So I hope this changes some minds. So one podcast at a time, guys. Show how we do that D.
Oh, well, thank you again, Sydney. And please send our love and our encouragement to your husband. We'll be thinking about him. Thank
you so much. I can't begin to tell you the fight we're going to have and the trouble I'm going to be in for having mentioned it. Oh, yeah. I'm hoping that he wasn't listening upstairs to this, and that I'm not about to walk into so what were you talking about downstairs? And then Legendary is ruined.
Well, that's what we do here. We cause drama here.
Yes,
Let's do the D.
Ruining live.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Adam.
Woo! This has been an episode.
We have been through it in the best of ways.
So many thoughts, so many feelings, so many guests.
So many guests and gasps. That's Sydney James Harcourt. I'll tell you what, I could listen to his voice all day long.
Yeah, if he could just sit next to me and just sing softly into my ear. Well, it is time for Quick D. And this week we are doing Quick D Classic. That means Quick D Question, in which Patrick and I will ask each other a question we have not been privy to prior to recording, and we will answer it off the cuff. And Patrick, I'm going to go first because I'm selfish.
Ooh, yeah, that's true.
Patrick, at the top of the episode, we assigned each other a middle name based on the Schuyler sisters in Hamilton. And surprise, surprise, a fourth Schuyler sister was actually cut from Hamilton before the show's transfer to Broadway. What was her name, and what was her story in the musical?
You're right, Adam. This is a little-known fact, not taught in the history books, but we are going to lay some truths out here on Gays Do the D. That middle sister's name was Hilda Schuyler.
Hilda, huh?
Mm-hmm. Hilda was a handsome woman, Adam.
Is that meant as a compliment, or?
Sure, why not? Hilda had nearly all of her teeth. But she was a real amazing farmer.
Oh, she had the strength of an ox.
She, in fact, pulled many a cart across a field. Hilda, as a fun fact, invented football. American football.
Wow, those Schuyler sisters just continue to impress.
Yeah. I mean, they were the smartest and the strongest women in all the land. And that, my friend, is Hilda's short but amazing story. She also died of dysentery.
Oh, I can see now why she was cut from the musical.
It was hard to put that into song. As talented as Lin-Manuel is, he just could not fit Hilda on the stage, frankly.
I know, what rhymes with dysentery?
Well, Adam, speaking of Hamilton, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Disney is now looking to produce its next historical musical. What topic are they choosing, and what is it called?
I'm so glad you asked this because I just happened to receive an email the other day from Bob Iger. And this was one of the projects that he feels so passionately about that he really wants to see come to fruition before he leaves the company officially.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the project, the historical project that they're going to focus on is on the story of the Wright brothers.
Oh.
They're going to focus on Flight. They're going Broadway musical first. And the entire musical takes place on that paper plane that the Wright brothers created that they kind of flew, I don't know, like 6 feet in or something like that. That's the focus of the show, Patrick.
I like it.
It's called 6 Feet to Destiny.
That's kind of the musical about my life right now. 6 feet from destiny.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing, Patrick. It really parallels the time we live in. Don't you see it? That's exactly why I said that.
Genius.
Thank you so much. Some of the musical numbers that are going to be portrayed in 6 Feet to Destiny, was that the title that I gave it? Wasn't
Sure.
that it? Okay, great. The musical numbers are called Flying Right. This is about the Wright brothers flying right. Right.
Sensible.
And then when
Yeah.
things go sour, it's flying wrong. That's the reprise of Flying Right, but it's flying wrong.
I mean, genius. This is genius.
Standing on the Wings of Destiny. There's a really cute little patter song between one of the Wright brothers. I think his name was Bob and Orville. And what was the other one's name? Anyway, it doesn't matter, Patrick. Orville and Redenbacher, the two Wright brothers. There's this cute patter song because they fall in love with the same woman. And the patter song is called Pape Her or Pape Him.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that one still needs to be kind of ironed out in the workshop, but it's going to get there.
I hope so.
And the musical concludes with this really incredible ballad, powerful. Everyone comes directly to the end of the stage and just faces the audience and is given a moment to sing, which you know is the only way we can close out a show these days, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And that ballad is called Flying High.
Perfect.
And in a fun little twist, each cast member gets their full-on Mary Poppins moment, and they're actually standing on a drone that then lifts them up over the audience. And there's going to be a high mortality rate for this show because it requires the actors to have extreme balance, but they are going to fly over the audience and then off into the balcony and into the distance.
This feels like it might go in the way of Spider-Man the musical, but I'm still here for it.
You mean in that it's going to be an incredible draw and then just become a dumpster fire and close immediately?
Nope. I mean, a ton of injuries and mass disappointment.
Have you ever seen The Producers, Patrick?
I see what you're doing. Are you trying to cancel us, Adam? That will do it for this episode of Gays Do the D. Thanks for listening. To become a patron of the podcast, visit our website at gaysdothed.com/donate. For a donation of any amount, you can receive exclusive Gays Do the D content and help us continue to bring you the very best Disney news and discussion. Continue the conversation after this episode on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast. Submit your questions or show ideas to info@gaysdothed.com. Have a great week, everybody. See ya real soon.